With the giraffe. Got albino bird, but we're gonna go up to the officer and see if everything's okay. If I can need to make a civilian arrest. He doesn't look too bothered, so at least it's not life-threatening. I imagine he's pulling out, so I'll take his body language as a social cue that I don't need to have adrenaline pumping through my body for any odd reason. But I'm still wary. This thing is outdated. It's not albino because it's not white, but when it's weathered, there's the word, it is gonna have an amount of rust, and it's not bad, but it's just harder to read because it's all the same color. Over here we've got a fiber optic cable is also implemented in AI data centers, which are going up in smart cities. That's dangerous because they can read stuff that you can't. You heard of what a live wire is? I call this one drone activity because this MF could pop off and start sparkling at any moment. When you talk about droid activity, it's more and more impulses through your body, but we're not yet metal, all metal. Thank you for bringing out the best of me. Dude looked like he bit a rope and it shocked his teeth to a T. In the future, that might be a thing. That robot treated him, didn't he? This illusion comes to a lack of shadow, and I'm far away enough. Like when you look at a picture and it's like the dot picture, those dot pictures close up can look the most distraught ever. But then when you go away, far, far away, just the right sweet spot, it'll look so good that it's almost better made than a well fine line and shaded picture. The dots allow that, and it's not an illusion. But back to this looks like an illusion because it's so big, and it does have little bricks that have perforated edges all around it. They're textured that way, and so that when you're far away distance just enough, with it all having a lack of shadow because it's so white, it looks flat when actually that was the curve. Now we see more of a curve because there's more of a shadow. All those little perforated edges are picking up a shadow. The more that you get it curved out into a fine line, where now you can see a fine line is dark because it has a shadow on its edge. Now, does that shadow on its edge make for a dark line because all the perforated edges are adding up to that angle? Perhaps, and that would be a grassroots Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or Wi-Fi Bluetooth. It's just like milking a cow. You can call it burping. The cow is the cow to it is burping out this liquid, but to you milking it, receiving it as a product, you are milking it, and so that milk gives you money as a product. You're not looking at it as a negative burping, but to the cow, if it doesn't get milked, it will have its its udders explode. Just like a pig, if you give a pig enough food and you keep giving it food, it'll eat all the food until it explodes. And that's why when people eat a whole bunch of food, that's kind of in a gross manner, they say, boy, you're a pig. And then people fatten up a pig before they kill it. It's just like putting a genie back into the bottle. You can't really put a genie back into a bottle or a toothpaste back into the toothpaste bottle. But however, if you do cut off the meat from an animal, and sewing it back on is that much harder because it will never be the same. The scar tissue will remain. Just as putting toothpaste back into the bottle, you can put an X amount of it without any tools, but that'll never be the full amount. as trace elements will surmount elsewhere. And it's just like the saying where once a thing is weathered, it remains. These, well, I used to work here, so I know this better than almost anyone. This sign was here a very long time, and once it's taken off, you see a dark mark. But over here, this was ran inside the store. This has shown a white mark. Both signs of weathering, both equally interesting because they're opposite color. Just as milking and burping are the same thing, but they're different spoken when you have the different of opinion, ergo the farmer milking or the cow letting loose its juice. And side note, I think milk is disgusting. Milk is meant for baby cows, and that's why like grown-ups shouldn't drink milk, because that is like for when you're a baby. You drink the milk from your mother when you're a baby. And so I'm just here to say I don't drink milk. I don't eat eggs. Equally disgusting. Almond milk is not meant for babies of any sort, because plants do not have an infantry that's a living thing. It's an animal. There's nothing other than a living animal or human. That's another identity is the idea of living. There's plant life, but then there's human and animal life. So when you say living, you have to denote the three, and some people only denote it as two. That's another identity, identity, that animals and humans are the same to Satanists. That's you. To Satanists, people are animals, and to cops too. You treat cops, their slang name is pigs, because they're always getting into business like a pig would get into food. That's just how it goes. I didn't make up the name, but that's what cops are called, pigs. I'll just be a monkey's uncle. This is another identity where, like, you're not gonna get hit by a car if you're standing next to a dead end, because the car can't come through the dead end. If you've been dodging cars all day, you'll feel rather comfortable once you find a dead end, just because when you're on foot, these markings are like book markings in books, where you know what it gave all the Apple data codes to China. Thanks for watching. How many video games like Burnout, where you drive fast next to something and you get accelerated points off of it and you can use boost, or Super Mario, when you jump on top of things it kills them, or jump up and hit your head on a block and it does another significant difference. It's compartmentalization, with it all being scaled out like shadows to particles. Everything's weathered to some degree, and when you get a sign that could be weathered and you can touch it, if it made the sign new again and easier to read, that would be preferable. And then also when you try to make stuff that happen that isn't actually happening, like making electric, like making electric into an electric box, if it has a whole bunch of dials around it, if you could just put your finger into the electric socket and have all these operations perform that it would be performing around the electric boxes with, and that is equivalent to what they're doing with AI, but making everyone, their DNA and genome more modified, so it's easier for it to be read. You can see this in the Terminator, when the Terminator puts his hand into the socket of the collar system, the operator system, and he can read everything. That's essentially what a data center is. Looking